Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. In Myanmar, 9 people have been killed by security forces at anti-coup demonstrations in Sagaing, Mandalay and Yangon. At least 30 people have been slain in the unrest following a military takeover on February 1st. At least 10 rockets have hit a military base in western Iraq that hosts US-led coalition troops. In a tweet, coalition spokesperson Colonel Wayne Marotto said Iraqi security forces are leading the response and investigation. Russia has accused the US of a hostile anti-Russian launch after the imposition of new sanctions. In a statement, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said Moscow will retaliate on a reciprocal but not necessarily symmetrical basis. Earlier, the US announced curbs on 7 Russian officials over the alleged poisoning of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Saudi Arabia says only vaccinated pilgrims will be allowed to perform Hajj this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, Brazil has reported a record 1,641 deaths overnight, with the toll crossing 257,000. Here in Pakistan, the virus has infected more than 1,300 people and claimed 75 lives in the past 24 hours, while the nationwide number of deaths has topped 13,000. Globally, there are 2.5 million fatalities and nearly 115 million cases. And in the Pakistan Super League, Peshawar Zalmi are 87 for 4 against Karachi Kings at National Stadium, Karachi. Earlier, the defending champions won the toss and elected to bowl first. Quetta Gladiators and Multan Sultans will also lock horns at the same venue later in the day. Well, these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We'll start from Myanmar, where 9 people have been killed by security forces at anti-coup demonstrations in Sagaing, Mandalay and Yangon. At least 30 people have been slain in the unrest following a military takeover on February the 1st. Meanwhile, Myanmar's UN ambassador and the military junta have made rival claims over who represents the country at the United Nations. The UN spokesperson says the ruling military had terminated Kyaw Mo Tun and appointed its deputy Tin Maung Naing. But in a letter to the UN General Assembly, President Kyaw Mo Tun said he is Myanmar's ambassador. The US also says the Myanmar's envoy to the United Nations in New York remains in position. Now, at least 10 rockets have hit a military base in western Iraq that hosts US-led coalition troops. The coalition spokesperson, Colonel Wayne Marotto, said Iraqi security forces are leading the response and investigation. In a tweet, Marotto said the rockets hit the Ain al-Assad airbase in Al-Anbar Governorate. There were no immediate reports of casualties. The attack marks the first since the US attacked Iran-aligned militia targets along the Iraq-Syria border last week. Now, the US has pressed Ethiopia to end hostilities in the northern Tigray region. The State Department says Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in a phone call. Blinken cited a growing number of credible reports of atrocities and human rights violations and abuses. The Secretary of State called for the withdrawal of outside forces from Tigray. He asked that Addis Ababa work with the international community to facilitate an independent probe into the abuses and hold those responsible accountable. He acknowledged Ethiopia's recent announcement of full and unhindered humanitarian access in Tigray. Now, Russia has accused the US of a hostile anti-Russian lunge after the imposition of new sanctions. Earlier, Washington announced curbs on 7 Russian officials over the alleged poisoning of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. In a statement, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said Moscow will retaliate on a reciprocal but not necessarily symmetrical basis. She called the move another blow to US-Russia ties. Zakharova said all this was just an excuse to continue overt interference in Russia's internal affairs. The spokesperson said the US was free to choose whether it wanted equal dialogue with Russia on a reasonable basis, but said Moscow would not pay attention to any sanctions. The United States has expressed concern over the possible reprocessing of nuclear fuel for bombs by North Korea. This comes after the International Atomic Energy Agency highlighted Pyongyang's continued nuclear activity. Speaking at a virtual event, head of intelligence for the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Rear Admiral Michael Sturdman, warned that such activity could raise tensions with Pyongyang. Sturdman said North Korea's doings could be aimed at getting the Biden administration's attention. He added Pyongyang could use the activity as a bargaining chip to press for sanctions relief. The new U.S. administration is currently conducting a full review of the North Korea policy. The former Chief Minister of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has moved the High Court over New Delhi's refusal to issue her passport. In her petition, Mehbooba Mufti said the passport has been denied so far because of the lack of police verification. The former Chief Minister said she has the right to hold a passport as she is a citizen. She has also asked the court to take action against those who limited her personal liberty by not responding to her request. Now, in India, former unions say their leaders will visit poll-bound states and seek votes in favour of parties contesting against the ruling BJP. The unions say they have also decided to expand their campaign across India to widen their support base beyond 3 states. Addressing a rally, a union leader said they will appeal to people to punish the government for bringing anti-farmer laws. Meanwhile, the Maharashtra government is under fire for ordering a probe into tweets by BJP's IT cell on the protest. In Punjab, the ruling Congress party has hailed the Chief Minister for his stand against the new farm laws. Tens of thousands of farmers continue to stage protests at the border point of New Delhi against the contentious reforms. Now, Saudi Arabia says only vaccinated pilgrims will be allowed to perform Hajj this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, Brazil has reported a record 1,641 deaths overnight, with the toll crossing 257,000. Globally, COVID-19 has claimed more than 2.5 million lives and infected nearly 115 million so far. More in this report. While the developments in vaccines bring hopes of normalcy, new variants of COVID-19 have got governments mulling the decision to ease restrictions. The UNICEF says more than 168 million children worldwide have had schools completely shut for almost a year. And 214 million students have missed more than 3/4 of in-person learning. Scientists warn a highly transmissible COVID-19 variant that emerged in Brazil and has now been found in at least 20 countries, which can infect people who previously recovered from the disease. Even with such news, the U.S. state of Texas has lifted the mask mandate and declared that it is time to open 100%. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden says the country is on track to have enough vaccines for every adult in the country.
I'm pleased to announce today, as a consequence of the stepped-up process that I've ordered and just outlined, this country will have enough vaccine supply, I'll say it again, for every adult in America by the end of May. By the end of May. That's progress, important progress.
In Europe, the uptake of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine in France stood at 24%, well below the country's target of between 80 and 85%. Spain says it will buy 17 million more doses of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine as part of a new deal negotiated by the European Union. Meanwhile, Italy has ordered the closure of all schools in the hardest hit areas and extended curbs on businesses and movement until after Easter. But battling the world's worst surge in cases, the Czech Republic has reluctantly entered a stricter 3-week lockdown.
People are really angry. The leading politicians are breaking the rules which they had themselves designed. And then they are surprised that people with lower IQ are saying that they do not want to adhere to the restrictions when the politicians are not keeping them. The whole problem is in the people governing us.
A coalition of healthcare experts says out of 412 COVID-19 related attacks on medics worldwide, India had the highest number of 128. Meanwhile, Australia says it will seek the support of the Defence Forces in its COVID-19 immunisation drive. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, COVID-19 has claimed 75 more lives and infected nearly 1,400 people in the past 24 hours. This pushes the nationwide death toll to over 13,000. Health officials says Pakistan has reported over 583,000 cases since the pandemic began. The Health Ministry says there are more than 16,000 active cases across the country. So far, over 554,000 people have recovered from the disease. Meanwhile, Pakistan, Nigeria and Indonesia will be among the biggest recipients of the COVAX vaccine initiative. Islamabad will receive more than 10 million doses before June. Now, polling for 37 seats of the Senate is underway in Pakistan under the supervision of the electoral body of the country. A total of 78 candidates from across the country are contesting for the seats in the upper house of the parliament. All candidates from Punjab province have already been elected unopposed after disqualification or withdrawal of other contestants. Prime Minister Imran Khan has cast his vote in the election. Polling will continue until 5 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time, and the results are expected shortly thereafter. The 4th International Pakistan Army Team Spirit Competition 2021 is underway at the National Counter-Terrorism Centre Pubbi near Khariam. The 3-day competition is designed to test mental agility and tactical proficiency of the participating teams. The teams have so far participated in the endurance test, hideout occupation and rehearsed quick tactical level battle drills. Besides 8 domestic teams of the Pakistan Army, teams from 8 allied countries are participating in the competition. Teams from Jordan, Sri Lanka, Turkey and Uzbekistan are involved as participants, while Morocco, Indonesia, Kazakhstan and Tajikistan are participating as observers. More news coming up in this news bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Moving on with the news stories. France has asked Iran to make clear gestures towards the resumption of a dialogue over the 2015 nuclear deal. The Elysee Palace says President Emmanuel Macron expressed deep concern over Iran's decision to violate the accord. In a statement, the presidential office said it is vital Tehran returned into compliance and cooperated with the UN's atomic watchdog. Meanwhile, Iranian state media says Tehran has made it clear the only way to revive the deal would be for the US to lift the sanctions. It repeated that Iran's decision to reduce its obligations under the deal was due to the US withdrawal in 2018. Now, the US has decided to increase multilateral pressure on Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro to hold fresh elections. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made the remarks over a phone call with Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said Blinken stressed the importance of fresh and fair polls. In a statement, Price said the Secretary of State pressed for a peaceful democratic transition in Venezuela. He added Blinken and Guaido also discussed urgent humanitarian needs in the country, and Blinken applauded efforts to find solutions and committed to continue US support to Venezuelans. The Australian High Commission has planted a miawaki forest in Islamabad to contribute to Pakistan's Spring Tree Plantation Campaign 2021.
Commissioner Dr. Jeffrey Shah and Pakistan's Climate Change Minister Zertaj Gul led the event. Speaking at the occasion, Dr. Shah said he hopes that this initiative contributes to making Pakistan cleaner and greener. He said Australia and Pakistan have long-standing cooperation on the environment and tackling climate change.
I hope these trees help regenerate not just the environment here in this marvellous city, but contribute to making Pakistan cleaner and greener. I want to commend the government of Pakistan and in particular Prime Minister Khan for championing the need on a global stage for climate action and environmental conservation.
The Japanese technique miawaki is used to create dense and multi-layered forests. It ensures that plant growth is 10 times faster and the resulting plantation is 30 times denser than usual.
Now, 3 people, including Panama's consul, have died in Colombia after strong river currents swept away their car. Colombian authorities say the deceased include the diplomat's husband and a colleague. They said Telma Beria Penzon was en route to the south of the country. Rescue workers have managed to recover all 3 bodies. The officials added that 2 others inside the vehicle survived. The Colombian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has sent condolences over the consul's death. Now, European stocks are advancing for the 3rd straight day. Investor confidence was boosted by a senior Federal Reserve official's assurance regarding emergency support for financial markets. London's FTSE has climbed over 1%. Italy's FTSE MIB and Frankfurt's DAX have also risen more than 1%. The CAC 40 in Paris and Europe's stock 600 have ascended nearly 1%. Earlier, all major Asian bourses traded higher. Now, the U.S. Commerce Department has issued final anti-dumping duties on aluminium sheets from 18 countries it investigated. The announcement follows the confirmation of a new Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo. The duties include up to 243% tariffs on imports from Germany and around 5% from Bahrain. Germany is the largest exporter of aluminium sheets to the U.S. and had the highest anti-dumping rate, followed by Bahrain. Brazil, Croatia, India and Taiwan are among the other countries to receive anti-dumping duties. The duties will come on top of the 10% tariffs imposed on most aluminium imports by the previous administration. Now, in the Pakistan Super League, Peshawar Zalmi are 112 for 4 against Karachi Kings at National Stadium in Karachi. Earlier, the defending champions on the toss and elected to bowl first. Zalmi lost 3 early wickets thanks to Kings' tight bowling up front. Abbas Afridi bagged 2 wickets while Muhammad Ilyas took 1 to put Zalmi on the defensive. Quetta Gladiators and Multan Sultans will also lock horns at the same venue later in the day. Now, in Italian Serie A, Cristiano Ronaldo netted his 20th league goal of the season as Juventus comfortably beat Spezia 3-0. This moves Juventus to within 3 points of the second-place AC Milan. Juventus secured the lead with Alvaro Morata turning in Federico's cross before Federico Chiesa tapped in. Ronaldo got his side's 3rd when he finished off a quick counter-attack in the final minute. The Portuguese star has become the first player to score at least 20 goals in each of the last 12 seasons in Europe's top 5 leagues. Now, in English Premier League, a brace from Gabriel Jesus has steered Manchester City to a 4-1 win over the Wolverhampton Wanderers. City's 21st straight victory in all competitions moved them 15 points clear atop the table. Leander Dandokner's own goal drove Pep Guardiola's side into the lead in the 15th minute. Wolves managed to draw level in the 61st minute with a diving header from Conor Cody. Jesus restored City's lead in the 80th minute, followed by Mahrez slotting home the 3rd in the final minute. Jesus then netted City's 4th in the stoppage time after an offside decision was overturned. And with that, we come to the end of this news bulletin. For the latest update, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.